Hello, everyone. I'm Colleen Fritz. I'm an assistive technology specialist, and today I'm going to be sharing a training with you about aided language stimulation and descriptive feedback. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. Aided language stimulation and descriptive feedback. So we have some learning objectives for today. One, I want to define augmentative alternative communication, or what we simply say, AAC. Then we're going to define aided language stimulation, or ALS. We're going to talk about some routines and activities that might be happening in your classroom where you can use ALS. We'll define descriptive feedback, and we'll talk about the language that we use when we provide descriptive feedback for students in your classrooms for specific routines and activities. So, augmentative alternative communication. Students who are primarily nonverbal or unintelligible or have a limited number of words are children that can use augmentative alternative communication. So this allows them to use an alternative or another method to augment what they may naturally have. For instance, facial expressions can convey meaning, gestures can convey meaning, but we need more than that. So we have the written word. So if the person is literate, they can use that written word. Picture communication symbols also can be used, sign language, or tactile symbols. So that is AAC. But today we're going to be talking about aided language stimulation. And you can see the teacher there. She has a large poster with a lot of words on it. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But first, the definition of aided language stimulation. It is a communication strategy where a communication partner teaches symbol meaning and models language by combining his or her own verbal output with selection of vocabulary on the AAC system. And I'm going to model that for you in just a moment. When you're doing aided language stimulation, you want to make sure you're focusing on core vocabulary. And we've talked about core vocabulary in some past trainings, but just as a reminder, core vocabulary makes up about 80% of anything we say or we write. It's those words that we use over and over again, and they are a set of about 250 to 400. For our users of AAC, it's going to start off with a smaller set of numbers of core words. You also want to model at the student's language level. So, for example, if your student's at the one-word level, you will model up to 2 words. If they're at 2 words, you're going to model up to 3 words, and so on. When you do aided language stimulation, you want to slow down when you're going to highlight that core word. So if you're saying the sentence very quickly and you quickly point to the word, the student will not have time to process what you've said and what you've pointed to. So you want to slow that whole process down. Also, you want to pause while you're talking to the student using aided language stimulation to give them an opportunity to maybe comment back or add to the conversation. So let's take a look at aided language stimulation. I'm going to switch my board out. All right. I know that this is probably difficult to see, but I want you to get the idea of what aided language stimulation is. So, for example, if you were going to do a recipe, you might use these words. First, we get out the ingredients. Next, we stir the ingredients. Last, we eat it. Now, as I said before, if your student is more at the 1 or 2 word level, you're just going to model up 1 to 2 words. So even though I highlighted multiple words, if I was working with a student that was really at the 1 to 2 word level, I might have done fewer words during that activity. Now, what if you're reading a book? Prior to reading the book, you really want to look through it and highlight those core words that you're going to focus on during the reading of the book. Now, I have Splat the Cat available here, and I'm going to read one of the pages from the book. And it says, if I hide from the day, maybe it will go away. It did not go away. Mom said, time to get up. So I slowed down the pace and took my time locating those words so that the students have time to process what you're doing. I also tried to stop when I got to the word so they could put both of the verbal and what I'm pointing to together to understand that I'm using this to talk to them. Another example might be at the end of an activity, you might say, we are all done. Put your things away. So that gives you an idea of what it looks like to use aided language stimulation. I'm going to switch back over now. Aided language stimulation. And you can use this throughout so many activities during your day. We've talked about using it during snack time, book time, to end an activity, cooking time, art activities. All of these activities, you can focus on some key core words that you're going to use during that activity. Even when you come in from the weekend, or maybe it's even a Wednesday morning, you're going to tell your students something about what you did over the weekend or what you did the past evening. You can talk to them using this communication board so they can see how it works and how they can then use the board to talk to you. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about was descriptive feedback. When your student then talks back to you, what do you do? What should you say? You want to make sure that you're giving them descriptive feedback. Good job doesn't count as descriptive feedback. We like to tell kids they're doing a great job, and that can be important, but we need to be more specific with our language, especially when we're using communication boards to provide aided language stimulation to our students. And when they speak back to us using this board, we have to make sure that we give them very specific feedback. So let's take a look at this. So it says, repeat what student says. You said, whatever the word is, while you point to the word on the communication board, thus reinforcing again the word that they pointed to. Then you say the word again and add another core word while pointing to the 2 words on the communication board. Then finally, you can say a grammatically correct sentence with the 2 words. What does that look like? Okay, here's an example. Teacher says, line up for playground. She points to the word up as she says, line up for playground. Student says by pointing to his communication board, front. Teacher says, you said front. Want front? You want to be in the front of the line. And you can see in each one of these slides, I have bold and italicized and provided red print for those core words that we're focusing on, that you would be pointing to on the communication system that your student's using or that you're using with your student. Now, I want you to notice there are some other core words in those sentences that the teacher said to the student. Once again, I go back to what is the language level of your student. If your student is more at the one word, as this student only pointed to the word front, I would keep the number of words that you model at about 2, which we did in this example. But as your student moves on to point to more than one word at a time, you can add more words into your model back to them. So let's try a couple of activities. So here's the first one. Teacher says, let's sing our morning song. Student says, play. What descriptive feedback would the teacher provide at this point? Now I'm going to pause for just a few seconds, but you can pause your video and write down your answer. Okay, so if the teacher says, let's sing our morning song, note she's pointing to the word sing on her communication board. Student says, play. The student has pointed to the word play on the communication board. Teacher says, you said play, while pointing to the word play on the communication board. Then she will say, I play, pointing to I, then pointing to play. Then finally, she'll say, I will play the song, again, while pointing to I and the word play. Let's do another one. Teacher says, we have an assembly today. I'm happy. Student says, now. What would the descriptive feedback be for this one? And no, your student may say something that you can't make any sense of. You really want to figure out the context of how it could work in with what you are talking about. And sometimes that really takes a lot of work. So let's think about this one. The student says, now. How could we respond to that? Maybe you thought he was going to say happy. Maybe you thought he was going to say today. Maybe you thought he was going to say go. But instead he says now. So what feedback could you provide for the response of now? Pause your video if you want to go ahead and write down your response. Okay, teacher says, we have an assembly today. I'm happy. Student says, now. Teacher says, you said now, while pointing to the word now. Not now, while pointing to the word not and now. We go later, not now. Now, once again, all of those 5 words that made up that particular sentence were core words. You may not be pointing to all of those words. You may just focus on the words not now in this particular situation, since you know your student is at the one-word level. All right, so these were our learning objectives today. I hope that we have met those objectives. What we've done is we've defined 3 things. We've defined what AAC is, what aided language stimulation is, and what descriptive feedback is. And we've practiced using ALS, talking about different routines and activities where we could use it. And also we looked at providing descriptive feedback and came up with different activities, different things the teacher might be saying, what the student might be saying, and determining what that descriptive feedback should look like. So I thank you all for spending the time with me today. And if you have any questions, please email me. My email address is colleen.fritz at palmbeachschools.org. I hope you all have a great day. I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you. Have a good one. Bye-bye.